After home heroes and first-time winners, daring overtakes and team trouble, it is time to draw our summer of speed to a close. After a relentless run of races, this is our final chapter before the break. Good afternoon and welcome to the Belgian Grand Prix. It is time for one of the originals. Spa was a founding member of the calendar back in 1950, and now in a few moments' time, we'll take you to pictures of the circuit. First, at the graphic, it is the longest lap of the year. 7 kilometres, 4.3 miles in length, 19 turns, all with corner names that stand for something and recall a motor racing memory. We begin with one of the only hairpins to start the season at La Source in a few minutes' time. It's the C4, the C3 and the C2 tyre for the drivers. Today, in the middle of the compound range, we've left the wet and the intermediate behind. These are trackside pictures of a Grand Prix where the world champion thinks the favourites start 4th and 5th, but ask Norris and Piastri and they'll tell you to keep an eye on the driver in 11th. Let's take you through the entire starting grid, beginning with Yuki Tsunoda, who has changed loads when it comes to the engine unit, and it means that he's starting at the very back. 60th place penalty for him. Zhou Guanyu is in 19th position. Then it's Logan Sargent who is next to Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen P17 on the grid. His teammate is one place ahead. Nico Hülkenberg is there. He is next to Lance Stroll, who hit the barrier in a wet practice session earlier in the weekend. Valtteri Bottas is 14th. Daniel Ricciardo, the winner of this Grand Prix 1 decade ago. Pierre Gasly is 12th for the second year in a row here. Max Verstappen for the third year in a row, fastest in Q3, drops down because of a penalty. He's 11th today and he has to go on the attack. Alex Albon with a 4th top 10 start of the season next to Esteban Ocon, who's in 9th. Then it's Fernando Alonso on an all-Spanish row. Carlos Sainz couldn't switch on the tyres in wet conditions. It's got dry today. George Russell is in 6th next to our Formula One's most recent race winner, Oscar Piastri, in P5. Then it's Lando Norris in 4th next to Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's 3rd top 3 start of the season. And back on the front row, his best qualifying result since Miami 8 races ago for Sergio Perez, and Charles Leclerc inherits pole position number 25 in Formula One after Verstappen's penalty. What a grid. After a wet qualifying, we have glorious conditions for motor racing, where the track temperature is 42 degrees, where the air temperature is 20, and the noise is electric. We're ready to go racing at one of the classics. I'm Alex Jakes, alongside me for this one, Jolyon Palmer.
And the rain has abated after a full day of water on the track, slippery conditions, difficult to get the setup right and much jeopardy. Now, that jeopardy has left off with quite a tasty grid here. Leclerc on pole, Perez alongside him, as it was last season. They're both wary of the McLaren starting 4th and 5th. The McLarens have slightly less downforce than the cars ahead. They should be pretty raceable in dry conditions, and that's what we have now. But as you said, Verstappen, all eyes on him coming through from 11th as well. It's poised pretty well for the start of this one, and the start is crucial as well. It's a long run up to Les Combes at the end of the Camel Straight through Eau Rouge. Charles Leclerc had this position last year, but he lost it on lap 1. If Perez can come through, then that will open up more possibilities for Red Bull.
They've had a rehearsal at it. It was last year's Grand Prix, so Charles Leclerc gets another go today from the same position. Sergio Perez knows that you don't need to go all in at the hairpin that begins the lap, but Jolyon, we've seen so much action at the hairpin throughout the years. Last year, Sainz and Piastri making contact.
Indeed. It's the sort of place where you'd think in the midfield, we've seen many incidents in the past. Max is going to have to be careful from 11th, but honestly, as you said, 4th and 5th tangled last year. That is where the two McLarens start right now. It was Piastri that got into Carlos Sainz last year. The two collided, ruling them eventually both out of the Grand Prix. You've got to be so careful through the first corner and then line yourself up for that monstrous run all the way sweeping through there, through Eau Rouge, up the Camel Straight. A long drag uphill and the perfect chance to slipstream.
We are on to our formation lap with Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, Lewis Hamilton, the two McLarens, George Russell, all on the medium tyre. Carlos Sainz going the other way, going for the hard initially. Rest of the top 11, I'll go top 11 on the medium because that includes Max Verstappen. Unusually, Jolyon, we're expecting a 2-stop today.
It's a 2-stop on paper. It could even be a 1 if there are safety car interventions early on and tyre life is eased. But there's plenty of unknowns because of the wet weather yesterday. There's not been a huge amount of dry running. We don't know what track conditions are going to be. They're going to be quite green because the rubber that was laid down on Friday will have been washed away in part as well. So there's plenty of unknowns with regard the strategy, and the tyre life on a two-stop may just move its way towards a 1 if there's an opportune moment for a safety car, which we have had many of in the past around this circuit. The start's going to be crucial. Max Verstappen starts 11th. 2 years ago, he started 14th. He got up to 8th at the end of lap 1. He made 6 places. In part, that was because Hamilton and Alonso collided. Hamilton was out of the race. Last year, Max started 6th. At the end of lap 1, he was up 2 places to 4th. That was because Piastri and Sainz collided, and he benefited there as well. So today, from 11th, if Max wants to win the race, I feel like he's got to punch his way up into the top 10 at the very least. But he's more than capable of doing that, as the last 2 years have shown.
We were looking at a replay of the starts before we came on air. A lot of expectation because of the summer that we've had, because of the landmark moments that we've had with first-time winners, with drivers who have been returning to the top step of the podium in Lewis Hamilton, who starts 3rd today. Let's have a look at the Drivers' Championship. The Constructors' Championship is a wide-open battle, but the drivers, well, McLaren know if they're going to get Lando Norris to the top of the Drivers' Championship by the end of the season, they need to win this Grand Prix. Julian, they can't afford to slip back and have a tardy first lap.
They absolutely can't. The same way as Verstappen needs to move forward, so does Norris and so does Piastri. Hamilton, Perez and Leclerc, in theory, won't have the race pace of the trio further back that looked to have the measure on everyone else on Friday. But if Norris or Piastri make a tardy start, Verstappen makes a good one, they'll lose all of that advantage they've got with Max taking his penalty immediately.
Well, the engine unit penalties applying to Yuki Tsunoda at the very back of the field. He has taken his position with the others on the formation lap. And Max Verstappen in 11th. Has to keep costs down in Formula One. It is a race that Max Verstappen has won 3 years in a row. He's looking to continue the form here today from outside of the top 10. He has never won from 11th on the grid at any Grand Prix in his career. There is the aforementioned Yuki Tsunoda trundling to the line. Only one driver on soft tyres, Daniel Ricciardo, this man's teammate.
Yeah, all the major players are on the mediums. Sainz from 7th is on the hard, doing something slightly different. It's a risk versus reward balance as usual, but this circuit is easier than most to tangle at the start or at Les Combes. The cars will all be together until they can funnel through the middle sector.
And these are the moments that are nervy for those in the grandstand, for those in the pit lane, and for those on the grid. Green flag at the back. Here come the lights. 3, 4, 5 red lights in Spa. And Formula One is underway for the Belgian Grand Prix. Great start for Lewis Hamilton. He's up to 2nd place. He's immediately past Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc holds the lead. The two McLarens are side by side. And he's onto the gravel in the background for Lando Norris. Gives an opportunity to George Russell. Side by side we go with Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez into Eau Rouge. No, Hamilton's ahead. He gets the move completed. Leclerc, then Hamilton, then Perez, then Piastri. Wide moment for Lando Norris. Cost him places. Max Verstappen off 1 position to 10th place as Perez fights back, looking to reclaim 2nd position. Charles Leclerc has the lead for the moment. Can George Russell go around the outside of the McLaren? So close. It is Leclerc, then Hamilton, then Perez, the top 3.
Norris losing 3 positions at the start, running wide into the gravel, and look, just behind him, Max Verstappen has gained a couple of places already. So there's only 2 cars between Norris and Verstappen at this early stage. Leclerc leads, and he was really helped out by Hamilton's good start, getting ahead of Sergio Perez. They were watching each other down the Kemmel Straight, which helped Leclerc not need to defend, and he remains in 1st place.
Reaction time was slow for Perez. Hamilton was by the first turn in the opening meters of the Grand Prix. It meant that Perez could not do what he did 1 year ago when he powered past the Ferrari, and the man who last won a Grand Prix, his home race in Monaco, leads in Belgium. Hamilton gaining a position is vital. Verstappen finished sector number 2 in 10th position, and he has gained a place from where he started, as has Alex Albon. Esteban Ocon, the driver to lose out, down a couple of positions. Leclerc, Hamilton, Perez, Piastri, Russell, Sainz, Norris down 3 places, Alonso, Albon and Verstappen the top top 10.
Verstappen right in behind Alex Albon. He's got a bit of downforce on that Red Bull. He's got a lot more than the Williams. He's going to sweep all the way around the outside.
Outside line to the inside line, passing at will and making places early on because he knows he needs to go on the charge. And does Albon fancy a go back? No, because that's the World Championship leader and he's in a separate race.
There is no point. Stroll having a look down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, very close between those two at the apex of La Source, and that is the gravel on the exit that Norris kicked up that meant he dropped back a few positions. He's right on the tail of Carlos Sainz sweeping through Eau Rouge, and remember, Sainz is on the hard tyre, so this could be a chance for a move.
Lewis Hamilton has DRS. He's got Charles Leclerc looking in the mirror, not close enough at the moment. What about, oh, there's a chance there for Lando Norris to reclaim a place deep into the braking zone, and he can't keep it on the road. He'll have to give that one back, and he knows it. Lando Norris finds himself in 7th.
And Verstappen has cleared Alonso. So Norris, having had a scrappy lap and a half so far, looks in his mirrors, and there's the championship leader. That is a disastrous start for Lando Norris.
We were talking about the contrast at the start. The McLaren had to go forward if they needed an opportunity to win this Grand Prix, and that tells a story on the left-hand side. Norris down 3, Verstappen up 3, Verstappen mighty in the middle sector of this racetrack all weekend long in the dry, and now our top 2 in the World Championship are reversed with Norris ahead of Verstappen. Game on again between these two. There's been contact earlier in the season. Lewis Hamilton for the race lead, trying to win his 2nd Grand Prix today. Same applies for our race leader. 0.7 of a second between the pair.
And out front, Charles Leclerc will love the fact that Hamilton is in 2nd place. Mercedes have not been feeling too comfortable with their car. Perez in the Red Bull, in theory, has a more competitive package, but he's stuck behind Hamilton. They're all in a DRS train, and it's allowing Leclerc at the moment just to keep his nose clean, keep running a decent lap time, and try and maintain the gap to Hamilton. But as Lewis opens the DRS, he's really close, and he's going to get a chance up into Les Combes on this lap.
Charles Leclerc started from pole position last year, was overtaken on the first lap by Sergio Perez. Lap 3 of 44, longest lap of the season by a long way. This is Eau Rouge. And that's the side of a 7-time world champion, getting closer and closer still. He's won this Grand Prix on 4 occasions. He's trying to take the lead from Charles Leclerc. Now with the help of DRS, out of the slipstream to the race lead for Lewis Hamilton. And we have a new leader. The 7-time world champion is at the front of the field. Hamilton leads the Belgian Grand Prix.
Yeah, he was a bit doom and gloom yesterday with the Mercedes' potential of dry race pace, but in the first 2.5 laps, he's executed a perfect start. He's cleared Sergio Perez, and he's got his head down, and he's unlocking some pace in that Mercedes, just sweeping past Leclerc. There was nothing the Ferrari driver could do there. That is the benefit of DRS and a nice juicy slipstream as well down the Kemmel Straight.
Issue for Zhou Guanyu, who's tumbled down the order. He's fallen a long way back. He was part of the pack, and he's fallen off the back. So there's an issue for the Sauber at the very back of the field, at the front of the field. New race leader. Important lap for Charles Leclerc to stay within a second. We did see pass and repass in the races that we ran earlier on today. It is a shorter DRS straight on the Kemmel Straight this year, and there is the slow Zhou Guanyu. You can see it on the timing page. He was losing pace. Now, can he get it back to the pits, or will he have to park it up?
He's rolling. This is a downhill that he's on, coming down towards Pouhon. You can roll it almost back towards Stavelot.
I'm losing power, guys.
He's not
losing hydraulic. I try, mate. I try to bring it back.
He's not going to make it. It's downhill until the last part where you need to have a bit of power to get it back to the pit lane. So Zhou is still just cruising, but if he can't make it, there could be a VSC at the very least.
Lewis Hamilton with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, trying to break outside of a 1-second window for Charles Leclerc. It's crucial for Charles Leclerc that he stays within a second, not just to try and keep pace with Hamilton, but to keep Perez behind. If the Ferrari loses that DRS, Perez is going to be in a great position. So, Hamilton leads, then we have Charles Leclerc, then we have Perez. We're looking further back in the order. Lando Norris ahead of his rival for the World Championship, Max Verstappen. There's our race leader. It is one of those days at the Belgian Grand Prix where you've got to look in the middle of the pack, you've got to look at the front of the field, and the driver with the most wins in Formula One history leads the way on lap 4 of 44, and Leclerc just flirting with the DRS range. It was over a second, he got it back inside a second, trying to hang on. And trying to hang on to second place, because if he loses DRS, Perez will take advantage.
Perez isn't looking super quick at this stage, though. He's not all over the back of Leclerc as Hamilton was. Leclerc has just got the DRS, but look, Perez is more than a second behind Charles as well in third position. Leclerc's doing a good job in this middle sector, hanging on there with a bit of dirty air behind Hamilton out front.
You're looking at Max Verstappen, the World Championship leader, by a huge margin coming into this race. Actually had his advantage in the championship whittled away by Lando Norris last time out after Verstappen finished off the podium. We will bring you the start replays when it's sensible to do so. The start of the race saw Norris wide onto the gravel, and that's why he lost places in contrast to Verstappen. He's trying to hunt him down.
So Joe's actually not come into the pits, but he's managed to get his car going again, and he's found some performance, found some sort of power, and he's halfway around the lap again, up into Lake Com. He's going to be lapped very shortly and is destined for another race of misery, unfortunately, but at least there's no VSC, and Sauber did manage to Control-Alt-Delete that one from the steering wheel, and he's able to continue. He now needs someone else to have an issue to bring him back into play with the safety car.
Stewards have had a look at whether Alex Albon gained an advantage by leaving the track. They've decided that he did not, and there's no further investigation required. Hamilton, then Leclerc. It's a close moment now for the McLaren of Piastri, not close enough to make the move, as he puts the pressure on Perez in the leading Red Bull in the Grand Prix, and Verstappen not close enough to get by Lando Norris this time around, part of that DRS train.
It's a half-hearted attempt from Piastri, but he is adding to the pressure of Perez. 1.3 seconds now, Checo is down on Charles Leclerc. And finally, we get a chance to see the start replays.
Always good when they're delayed, because we've got lots of action on track. This was the 5 red lights going out, and immediately Perez knew he was in trouble.
Yeah, and from Hamilton's position here, it's actually easy to send it in and nerf the back of the Ferrari ahead, but he measures that part well, gives Perez space on the exit as Norris runs wide and loses all the momentum at the start of a long run. This is the view back from Leclerc. Hamilton got the launch, had the inside line, gets so close to the back of the Ferrari, gives Perez space, and just behind you can see the gravel kick up from Lando Norris. Hamilton now side by side with Perez has the inside for the crucial part at the bottom of Eau Rouge, this part, and Perez thought better of trying to go side by side and backed out of it. Let's have a look at Norris on the outside in the McLaren. Has loads of space, but just wanders off the road.
It's a strange one, and it cost him. Through went Russell, and then there was a real momentum loss there. That's how Ocon fell back a couple of places. He just got blocked by Norris rejoining the racetrack. Albon through, and so was Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, just didn't have the front grip to turn the car with cooler tyre temps off the start. Just understeered off the track.
George Russell initially ahead of Oscar Piastri in the braking zone, and then electing to jump over the corner. Didn't want to risk contact, knew he had to cede the position, and Piastri is now going on the front foot, trying to take third place. We take you back to the picture on lap 6 of 44. That's Lewis Hamilton ahead of Charles Leclerc. Once again, Piastri is close, nowhere near close enough for a move into the braking zone of Lake Com.
Piastri has to try and make moves now. This is his opportunity if he wants to threaten to win the race. Hamilton's doing things right out front. He's got the second gap to Leclerc, but only just. And everyone further back is pretty much all line astern until you get to Fernando Alonso, who's not living with the top 8, understandably, in the Aston Martin. But Perez is the driver struggling more than others.
Moving down by the legs.
Whatever it is, isn't holding him up at the moment. Lewis Hamilton on the driver's parade earlier on was recalling the great battles held on the Kemmel Straight, including Häkkinen and Schumacher back in the year 2000. Just taking a moment to enjoy being part of a history around this circuit that runs to more than a century, and he's looking for his 5th Belgian Grand Prix win today.
Yeah, he's just eking out that gap. It was 1/10 quicker on the last lap. Looks like he's about to extend it by another 10th or 2 on this lap as well, trying to get a bit of daylight between himself and the pursuing pack. There's most likely still going to be the McLarens and Verstappen at some point, but none of them are able to make a move. Piastri's still close behind Perez. Perez is now 2 seconds down on Leclerc and dropping away. And look at Oscar in the background of the McLaren, using all the road out of the bus stop, trying to scrabble for some traction, because this is the crucial part. As he hits the brakes, heads to La Source. If he can get good drive off this, he'll have a monster slipstream and some DRS to try and make a move on Perez. I mean, Red Bull have a slightly higher downforce configuration as well.
Zhou Guanyu's day is over. They tried Control-Alt-Delete, but it's not been worth it. And the Chinese driver retires from the Belgian Grand Prix, the only one out at the moment. And he finds himself exiting the Grand Prix for the only the second time this year that he's not seen the flag.
Piastri's very, very close to the back of the first Red Bull at the moment. 2/10 away in the braking zone for Lecombe, but it's not actually the biggest break at that corner. You're carrying sort of medium speed in towards the apex of turn 5, the first part of it, the right-hander, and so you've got to be pretty close. If you try and lunge in from too far back, you do what Lando Norris did on Carlos Sainz, and you just can't actually stop the car because the braking zone isn't the longest, about 70 metres. If you want to have more of a lunge, a hairpin like a La Source or the bus stop where you're really slowing the car down gives you a better opportunity. So at that part of the circuit, Piastri's got to get closer in the straight.
The top two in the World Championship are 7 seconds away from the race leader. Lewis Hamilton out front, trying to win his 105th Grand Prix today. And the sound of the cars coming through the curve, Paul Frey. You're on board with Max Verstappen on the left-hand side of your picture. You're looking at a very close group of the big 4 teams of the season. Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren is the order they run in at the moment. Only Sergio Perez from these teams has not won a Grand Prix this year. The other 7 have. It's been hugely competitive in terms of race winners. Most competitive season since 2012.
It's been brilliant, hasn't it? We've had so many great scraps for the race win in recent races. Rarely a race where it's not now closely fought, which is what we want in Formula 1. Right now, Lewis Hamilton is just doing everything right to try and extend a second win for himself, but there's such a long way to go. And when you're Mercedes right now on the pit wall, you're thinking, where are the threats going to be? Still, people are looking at Verstappen. You can see him picture in picture on the left-hand side. Behind Norris, but nowhere near close enough for a move. Piastri's dropped away from Perez. Perez actually did his personal best lap of the race on the last tour. Still 3/10 down on Hamilton, who is in a decent position. Managing the gap to Leclerc, he's not dropping the Ferrari driver by any stretch. Everyone's still close together. That means if they take a pit stop, they're going to drop right down into the midfield melee as well. George
Russell has had a difficult couple of corners because he's taking a slightly wider line through turn 8, the Rivage corner. Carlos Sainz, who I think will be a lot happier that it's dry today than wet. He didn't get on with the intermediate tyres yesterday. He was confident after that session that he could go on the attack rather than defending. We're on board visor cam with the Spanish driver, the winner of the Australian Grand Prix earlier in the year, and he is trying today to get by George Russell at this stage of the Grand Prix. It's worth underlining how much we've got to go in terms of the rest of the race, because the pit stop sequence, and we're expecting 2 of them today, absolutely crucial. They did resurface very nearly 3/4 of this racetrack, our longest circuit of the year. And what it's meant is that new surface, it's made things faster, but it's also added in the tyres degrading way more than they have done in previous years. The teams have to calibrate that for their strategy. Let's go to George Russell. We caught the back end of this. And this is Rivage corner, and he did go wide. This is why Sainz was so close.
Easy to do that. It's a downhill braking zone. You missed the brake point by just a couple of metres and it can wash you out wide. Also found the slight gully on the outside for draining water, and that hooked him even further off there, Russell, but not a big loss at the moment.
Hulkenberg was into the pits. 1 lap ago. That has triggered the stops for those chasing points today. We're looking at the sharp end of the order, but into the pits there we saw stops for Ricciardo, we saw a stop for Alex Albon as well.
So with these midfielders pitting, soon there's going to be windows opening up as the
Oscar, plan A or B, what do you think?
I think A.
It was Logan Sargent pitting, I just want to correct that. We're heading to the pit stop window.
Yeah, the domino effect as the drivers further back pit, the ones ahead of them start to pit to cover them off, and soon there'll be chances for the top 8 drivers, any of which could be in contention for this race still at this point, heading towards a quarter of the way through it already. But then we're going to get strategy coming into play, and that's what the likes of Verstappen, what Norris needs as well, to get these cars into clear air, because in this DRS train they're struggling to make big inroads.
Just looking at the language of the car for Max Verstappen, it's all looking under control at the moment. He's not exactly pushing to the ragged edge.
No, maybe he's looking after those tyres. There's 2 options at this stage if you're Verstappen in 8th. You look after the tyres and you go long. Remember, there's an outside chance of a 1-stopper being possible as well. It's 18.5 seconds for a pit stop.
Tyres are still okay.
Rears are definitely dropping.
So Hamilton's switching towards some oversteer the longer he goes. Rear limited for the Mercedes. Sometimes you can start losing the front tyres because there's a lot of high-load, fast corners around this track. And this is now where the driver can make a difference in terms of the tyre degradation as well. Is Verstappen managing the tyres, or does he want to close up to the back of Norris as much as possible and force the issue with an undercut?
Into the pits comes Pierre Gasly. If you're thinking, hold on a minute, I thought the Alpine was blue. It normally is. They've changed the livery for a tie-in promoting a film, and the drivers have different crash helmets as well, the Alpine. And they've had another management change. Their team principal, Bruno Famin, will be leaving the team. Oh, off the road there again. And McLaren is scraping the gravel around this circuit. It's mainly been Oscar Piastri over the course of this weekend. That time, though, Lando Norris, and it tells a story. He's under pressure.
Second time in 10 laps. Norris was disappointed yesterday, said he didn't feel good in the car, was scrappy, was fighting it. Normally in wet conditions, he's one of the best out there, along with your Verstappens, your Hamiltons, and maybe a Fernando Alonso. But yesterday just didn't feel hooked up, was disappointed to only be 5th, which gave him 4th on the grid for today. And the first 10 laps have also looked a bit scrappy for Norris. Granted, he's stuck in the dirty air behind Carlos Sainz, and they're all in the DRS train, but he's made the mistake on the first corner, and just another moment there washing wide, showing he's pushing, but he's just making lots of small mistakes.
If the gaps were more spread out, you would expect the McLaren, on the evidence of more recent races, to be able to clear the drivers ahead in Sainz and then Russell, and then you get to Piastri. Very, very similar car. And who pits first? Here's the answer. They will not wait. Into the pits comes Max Verstappen, so he comes in along with George Russell as the drivers from the leading pack elect to take their first stops. We're expecting 2 at the start of this one. High pressure for all of the crews in the pit lane. Mercedes have delivered, and in the background, it's a 2.7 stop for Verstappen in the Red Bull.
So, Verstappen and Russell blink first. Max wanted to then go for the undercut. This is now all about clearing Lando Norris and possibly Carlos Sainz as well. Russell emerges right with Yuki Tsunoda, which might work out if he can keep it pinned through Eau Rouge and come straight past, put another car between himself and Verstappen.
So they're looking for attacking out laps here, having gone to the hard compound of tyre. Massively important laps in the context of the Grand Prix and the World Championship for Lando Norris and for Carlos Sainz involved in the gap. Nice tidy pass that was for position on track. George Russell up to 12th. This is an out lap, bringing the tyres in. Remember, it's not just maximum attack with a new set of tyres in Formula 1. You have to bring them in slowly for a couple of laps to get that tyre life that you require.
Mercedes then, with a good pit stop, they've managed to fit George into a decent window, passing Tsunoda on the outlap. He's going to lose a bit of time here behind Magnussen, and further forward, Piastri and Sainz are both on personal bests now. They've got to respond to these early pit stops.
Really tidy pass for Hülkenberg. It's only for 17th, but he'll be delighted that he pulled that one off at Le Mans earlier on. And Max Verstappen on new hard tyres. He's got Yuki Tsunoda there ahead of him. Oh, George Russell dangling himself to the inside in exactly the same way into the first part of Stavolo that Verstappen did, and Tsunoda didn't jump out of the way. Piastri's being brought in.
Look at the grip difference with those new tyres. They can pass these drivers wherever they like if the drivers know that they're coming. Magnussen finally cedes place in Blanchimont of all places. I think Verstappen's doing the same to Tsunoda further back.
Hamilton's come in from the race lead. So is Sergio Perez. Also in there in the background is Oscar Piastri, who was told to come in. So a crucial moment that releases Sainz, Norris, and the new race leader is Charles Leclerc, who finds himself back on to the racetrack. Lewis Hamilton back onto the racetrack. Now, where is Russell? Where is Verstappen? And this is crucial. Russell's getting past Oscar Piastri. So going to the new rubber earlier on has worked for George Russell. Can Piastri do something about it immediately?
So can he do the move that Russell did on Tsunoda? Russell checks the mirrors. The McLaren is right with him.
They've got the same power unit in the back of the car, but Piastri has to go on the attack here. Vital that he gets to the inside of Russell for his Grand Prix. He needed to make the move, and he did. It's only for 9th. Could be greater points later on.
That was crucial for McLaren. Mercedes undercutted him with Russell. They were running together in 4th and 5th in the first part. Piastri managing to get back. And look at Perez now, stuck in behind Lance Stroll. That's going to punch him back towards Piastri as well, because you cannot make it through at the next corner.
So the second sector, basically the infield of this circuit, rapid first sector, rapid third sector, and some really high-speed corners, and now they will be line astern. Big opportunity for Piastri.
If we are getting undercut, let's go long.
So that's what they're going to do. They're getting undercuts. They've got to go long.
Oh, Piastri again, looking to that inside line into Stavolo corner. He will get an opportunity climbing the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion if he can stay where he is at the moment.
He might be able to do something at bus stop. These guys are going to enter the big braking zone altogether.
Race leader into the pit, Charles Leclerc, wanted to go longer, and the team have called him in. So Ferrari call in their lead driver. This is for position, by the way. Lance Stroll is not required. He's on a different strategy. He's not required to get out of the way, and it's a three-car battle now. George Russell joining this party again. Max Verstappen, the World Championship leader, in the background. Crucial moment if Oscar Piastri is going to have a chance to win this Grand Prix.
But Perez will not get DRS on the exit of this corner. Leclerc still covers them off, actually. So decent work from Leclerc, extending his stint and having fresher tyres now for the middle stint. Can Piastri take advantage? This is a crucial time.
What an enthralling Belgian Grand Prix. We go onto the Kemmel Straight, building up to 200 miles an hour. And the orange McLaren ducks out of the slipstream, trying to move ahead against Sergio Perez. And Piastri has another pass as he moves up to 6th position. He is a contender to win this one.
So, a net third now for Piastri. Perez not incisive enough with the Aston Martin of Stroll on the last lap. It's really difficult to pass. He had maybe an opportunity into the bus stop on the fresher tyres, but he was just held back behind the Aston Martin on this part of the track. You can't pass, and Piastri made that work with the DRS, and now he can try and get onto the back of Charles Leclerc.
So this was in the pits, and this was Sergio Perez coming in, Lewis Hamilton coming out of the pits into the path of Piastri, who was making his stop. Hamilton still has the net race lead. Charles Leclerc still net second. Piastri up to net race third. Sainz yet to stop, neither is Norris, neither is Fernando Alonso. This was the move that we weren't watching at the time, but this was Max Verstappen diving to the inside at the final chicane of the racetrack, known as the bus stop in years gone by, and an easy pass on Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, that was a very easy one on the fresh tyres, and this is what Verstappen was doing, similar to Russell, carving their way through some of the slower cars as soon as they pitted on the fresh tyres. Perez wasn't able to do it. He caught Stroll at a difficult time, and Piastri made the most of it. With Stroll pitting, there's nothing more Perez could do to defend, in fairness. You are just punching a hole through the air. Then the driver behind gets the DRS, and that was going to be always a difficult one to defend up the Kemmel Straight.
So, Sainz and Norris not in the position of on the racetrack that they would have wanted to find themselves in at the end of lap number 1. They've both extended their stint. They know that they would be a long way back. They're going to have fresher rubber as a result. So Charles Leclerc was called in to try and keep track position. The second Ferrari, onto plan B if you like, has gone longer. You will get fresher tyres later in the Grand Prix by extending a stint. Now, Sainz, Norris, and then Hamilton is the order. Hamilton has made his stop, his first one.
This strategy has not worked out at all for Verstappen. He was the first to blink, as was Russell, and yet Max is still 8th. Now, Sainz and Norris are going long. They're going to be undercut by Verstappen. Verstappen right now would come out ahead of Sainz.
Lando, 100% pace, please, 100% pace.
Or rather, when Sainz pits, he'll be behind Verstappen, so there is going to be a gain there, but he's still in this DRS train, behind Russell, behind Perez, behind Piastri, and it means he cannot use the pace of that Red Bull.
Lando Norris was asked for 100% pace, personal best in the middle sector of the Grand Prix, but way behind what Carlos Sainz was able to do in the middle part of that lap, so I don't know if there was a slight error in there. The two former teammates, the good friends. Carlos Sainz making his way to turn number 1. There's Lando Norris, and there's Lewis Hamilton with fresh, hard tyres on the car, eating into their advantage.
Sainz is driving well. He's on the hard tyre. The medium tyre of Norris probably starting to give way a little bit at the moment. He managed to do a personal best lap of the race, but half a second away from what Sainz could do on the hard. That's probably the quicker tyre, having run 15 laps on it from the start of the race. Hamilton in third has made a pit stop. He was 9/10 quicker than Sainz on the last lap, so he is catching them. I wonder if Sainz and or Norris are looking towards a one-stop race or just a more aggressive two-stopper.
got to come up with something where they are on track right now.
Straight line speed is a joke.
Lance Stroll not delighted. Let's see what Alex Albon's doing. Oh my word. I didn't know if there was going to be a car's width there, but there was. Albon past Sonoda and into the top 10. We're looking further back. Chance for another move? Not this time. That's the two Alpine liveried cars switching from blue to red this race, and they are finding themselves line astern on the racetrack. Ocon 15th, Gasly in 16th.
That one reminded me of Albon's first race for Red Bull here when he passed Sergio Perez half on the grass up the Kemmel Straight. He's not afraid to get close to it, and that one was a nice clean move. Albon into the top 10, and he's made a pit stop, so it's been a good start for him.
So Sainz is the race leader, having started this one from 7th on the grid. And did he have a moment? Because Lando Norris is only 1.4 seconds away.
He's made a mistake in the middle sector, so he was quick on the last lap, but he has just been reeled in by Norris, who's going to pit and use this chance to undercut Sainz. But Sainz on the hard tyre can carry on, and he comes through, and he has lost 2 seconds on that lap compared to the previous tour.
We saw a flash of yellow flag in Sector 3, automated system, and I think that would have been a wide moment for Sainz. It cost him time as Lando Norris comes into the pit stop, comes in to make his pit stop, leaves into the fast lane. He goes 2.3 seconds. We didn't have a safety car here last year, but we have had safety car interventions 80% of the races that we've run since 2016, and Lando Norris lights up the rear tyres, goes back to work. Things can change late on here. He needs something to change if he's going to be a contender. It's Carlos Sainz elongating his first stint, longest of the main contenders. Lewis Hamilton with a net race lead. Charles Leclerc, though, only 1.4 seconds away. And Carlos Sainz was wide onto the gravel to bring out that momentary yellow flag and cost himself a second. I'm sure we'll dig out the replay for you in a few moments' time.
And now Russell is putting pressure on Perez, who's dropped back from Piastri. Perez not having the race pace today. He's got Russell. Russell's using Perez now to defend from Verstappen. Well, this is into Stavolo for Sainz. It's a big snap on the entry. Hamilton radioed and said the rear tyres were going, but they certainly are on the hard-shod Ferrari as well. And that is how you lose 2 seconds. But
that's more of a gravel brush than I was expecting. He will be lucky to keep it pointing in the right direction. Kept the lead, but lost a huge amount of time. And this was Ocon to the inside of Pierre Gasly.
Well, rally driving's in the genes, isn't it, for Carlos Sainz, and he needed it there.
Esteban Ocon, having passed his teammate, going on the attack again. And this was him getting past Hülkenberg. A bit of an offset, because remember, Hülkenberg was the first to stop. And so slightly older tyres for the Haas, and Ocon, who put it in the top 10. Good response yesterday for Ocon after going out in Q1 the last 2 races.
And we are going to try and undercut Carlos. We think it'll happen for free, but we want to do that, then we'll worry about it.
So basically, radio message to Norris, push on the outlap. Let's make sure that we undercut Sainz, which he's probably done now because Sainz hasn't tried to cover him off either, doing that different strategy. He was the only driver in the top 10 to start on the hards, and he continues out front. And he's back down to a more sensible pace, having not gone through the gravel. Hamilton 1.2 seconds quicker, and slowly getting back towards the race lead. But look, Leclerc's still within a second and a half of Hamilton. Piastri's not making big inroads either. So Mercedes and Ferrari were downbeat about their chances. The McLarens were starting 4th and 5th. Verstappen was starting 11th.
I think I was trying to get them, mate. What do you think?
Have a go.
So when we were on board with Max Verstappen earlier in the Grand Prix, it looked very well behaved. That's about to end. He's going on the attack now. He wants to pass on track and make use of the speed he's got behind the wheel of that Red Bull.
So interestingly, Verstappen has been lifting so far in Eau Rouge. The Red Bull runs so low to the ground, and it's how it generates the downforce. The ground effect cars, the lower you can run them, the more downforce you can get. And the Red Bull really takes advantage of it. And it doesn't work so well at raised ride heights compared to the other cars that can raise up and not lose so much downforce. But what it does mean, in the compression of Eau Rouge, they're going to bottom out.
Okay, Lando, Carlos has stayed out. We've already got the gap. So the opportunity here is to pass the cars who we've got a tyre advantage over.
I wonder if that is Max to GP saying, can I just keep it pinned through Eau Rouge a couple of times and see if I can carry that speed up the Kemmel Straight and put pressure on Russell now, at the risk of some plank wear?
Well, if he's going to do that, the plank is going to take a beating on the next lap because he's right in position The problem for Max Verstappen is that George Russell is in position against his teammate, and Perez right there, and then you see within DRS range George Russell. That's going to be handy to try and keep Verstappen behind. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix belongs to Lando Norris on those fresh tyres as we head through Eau Rouge. We climb the hill through Radion Corner, and now Verstappen, having behaved himself for a large part of the race, ready to go on the attack. Is he going to be able to get close at all? And this is the third in the trilogy of Max Verstappen takes an engine penalty and tries to fight back through and win the Belgian Grand Prix. And if he does it today, he's going to have to work so much harder than the last 2 years to do it.
Yeah, well, the field's closed up, and this is proof. A Ferrari leads but hasn't pitted, then it's a Mercedes and then a Ferrari that has pitted. Then you're looking at a McLaren and your Red Bulls with these Ferraris and Mercedes in the fight today as well. So they've come alive in dry conditions, and Verstappen's not finding it easy to come through. Norris has not found it easy to come through, and McLaren ceded that position to Verstappen with the undercut. He's now a second a lap quicker, trying to get back onto the tail of the championship leader on fresher tyres. And ironically, Perez is helping Russell defend from Verstappen. I was
going to bring this up. I'm glad you brought it up because it's a strange one, this. Perez is helping Russell with the straight line speed because he's within 1 second, so he gets DRS, and at the moment it's enabling Russell to stay ahead of Verstappen. Perez in 5th place, trying to return himself to the podium today. That's the aim for the driver, who dropped down to 7th in the World Championship. Last time he was there, Chinese Grand Prix. That seems a very long time ago. That was the 5th round of the year. This is round 14.
I think in plan B for medium, plan B for medium. I think they cannot go to the end.
Let's wait a couple more laps.
Okay, copy.
So I think that's Sainz saying no one else can go to the end, but possibly he can, and he's getting towards half distance here, and he's still leading. Hamilton on the last lap another second quicker. There's a long lap here. There's only 44 in the whole Grand Prix, and Sainz is doing admirably on those old hard tyres out front.
Looking further down the order, we go on board with the V car for Daniel Ricciardo, former winner of this Grand Prix in spectacular fashion back in 2014 when the Mercedes were dominant that weekend. They made contact right about there, and it opened the door for Ricciardo to take another victory in the season where he won the Canadian Grand Prix, the Hungarian Grand Prix, and here in Belgium. 8-time Grand Prix winner in the sport, and driver trying to chase down Alex Albon. State of play absolutely identical between these two. They pitted at the same time on the same lap. It was a double stack for Williams, who brought in Alex Albon and then Logan Sargent. Daniel Ricciardo is in at the same time, so there's no offset here. It's just two very talented drivers battling for a couple of points in Formula One, and they'll try and take advantage of that. Ricciardo, he's only scored points on 3 occasions so far this season, trying to remain in Formula One for 2025. This is looking further back in the pack. Hulkenberg being passed by Valtteri Bottas' Sauber. Hulkenberg heading to the Sauber team next year.
Very easy pass for the Sauber there with the DRS. Russell's closer on this lap, I think, slightly than he was on the last lap. Perez every time has to be so clean at delivering the power on the exit of La Source. If he lights up those tyres, if he's a little late to throttle, then Russell will get a chance. He doesn't need more than another 10th probably to be attacking into the braking zone for Les Combes. Up they flash through Radion, and Russell might be closer this time.
George Russell is going on the attack. Sergio Perez is the driver ahead, and Russell, he thought about it again and didn't make the pass.
But he made Perez defend the middle of the road. Russell was close. It is difficult to throw a lunge. He was close enough to make Perez turn in early, defend the middle of the road and get him offline. Problem is, once again, it's difficult to do much in these next corners. He's quicker though on a older tyre by just 1 lap. Russell and Verstappen were the first to dive in of the main contenders today. Perez then pitted the lap after.
Sainz's really long first stint takes him to the end of lap 20. He's been called in to make his stop, and then Lewis Hamilton will retake the race lead. We go back to the overtaking compilation that is Esteban Ocon getting past cars. We heard Lance Stroll complaining about the straight line speed of the Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso might feel the same thing, checking the right mirror and seeing your old teammate there. No bad feeling for Esteban Ocon, now up to 11th place.
So then Sainz comes into the bus stop, and is he going to be diving into the pits? We believe so. Russell very, very close to the back of Perez. Sainz does pit. Hamilton leads the race again. And look at this, Russell closer than even the last lap with Sergio Perez.
And so on to the medium tyres, Carlos Sainz goes. And a great stint from Sainz to try something different, but he was not caught by those on the fresher rubber. Then Hoover up to the back of him, and he'll be pleased with what he's put together there. He drops to the back of the big four, and he finds himself in 8th position. Now let's see what we can watch as we climb the hill. Is this the best opportunity for George Russell, the winner of the Austrian Grand Prix earlier in the year? Perez knows it, goes defensive, nothing he can do. DRS open, Russell breezes by and takes 4th place.
That's been a long time coming. The pressure finally told, just inching up to the back, and then that time he was a 10th closer, and it was enough for a slam dunk pass into Lecom. Nothing that Perez could do to defend. And now he's probably going to have to get immediately out of the way of Verstappen, who, again, ironically, will have a better chance to pass Russell. Now Russell won't have DRS to defend. There's 4 seconds between Russell and Piastri. They've really fallen away with Perez having his mirrors full.
And Lando Norris is 1.8 seconds behind Max Verstappen here. So the McLaren has made use of that fresher rubber. Lando Norris's hard tyre, 5 laps fresher than Max Verstappen. Red Bull will swap these cars around super quickly because Norris is there. Norris has caught the pack up again.
Yeah, with every corner that Verstappen stays fighting the car behind his teammate, Norris is closing up 1.2 seconds. He's almost within DRS range of Verstappen. He probably will get there by the time they get onto the Kemmel Straight as well. Perez holding position at the moment, but surely Red Bull will get him out of the way.
There you go.
That's one way to do it.
It saves the chat on the radio, and Perez comes in to make his stop, and Norris is within DRS range there. And crucially, they've removed Perez from Verstappen, so Verstappen would have had DRS, would have had a chance to pass. Can Norris get within DRS of Max Verstappen as the Mexican Grand Prix winner comes into the pit? 6 times he stood on the top step, 2.2 second stop.
So that was Perez from the medium tyre again, so he's run medium, and now onto hard. But this is a long stint to the flag now for Perez. He's got a long way to go. Sainz couldn't make it to half distance starting on the hard. The fuel burns off, the car is easier on its tyres, but this is still he needs a typical Sergio Perez marathon stint here.
Max Verstappen is going to need a big lap to get to the back of George Russell here, because Lando Norris has a tyre advantage and has the ability to catch his rival for the World Championship at this stage of the Grand Prix. It's hovering around a second. 2 DRS zones around this famous old circuit, over a century old. We're looking at Perez's outlap, but crucially, can Norris fight his rival for the world title as we find ourselves at half distance for the Belgian Grand Prix, and your race leader is Lewis Hamilton.
Slow-mo shot of the right front tyre. Not looking at its absolute best for Hamilton, but looking far from bad. It does take a bit of load coming through Pouhon, the hardest corner really, the fastest, most exhilarating corner if Eau Rouge is easy flat. It's turns 10 and 11, puts a lot of stress on that right front.
We are very slow on the straights.
Well, this has been a topic all weekend long. What type of rear wing are you going to run on the car? You need the grip in the middle sector for the corners, but you also need the speed in Sector 1 and Sector 3. We're about to head into Sector 1 with Lando Norris chasing down Max Verstappen, and Sergio Perez reporting on the radio that they're slow on the straights.
So Russell needed to be about half a second back from Perez to make a move at the line. Norris is more than that. He's 7/10 down on Verstappen. Still 7/10 down on Verstappen as they head down towards Eau Rouge. In theory, this is going to be slightly too far back. Will he be able to get Max to defend at least?
There'll be no lifting on his way through to Eau Rouge, and Radion closing up as predicted. Not close enough for a lunge, but absolutely within striking distance, 0.4 of a second away. Norris chasing down Max Verstappen.
But in this big picture here, Verstappen was 1/10 quicker than Russell on the last lap. Now they pitted on the same lap, both fitting new hard tyres, and there's not a big advantage that Verstappen has on a Mercedes. Hamilton out front is still 2 seconds clear of Leclerc. Piastri's not closing in on those two. Hamilton and Leclerc are looking good. If they can get to this second pit stop, make it and still have the race lead, then at the moment, none of their supposed big rivals are catching them.
That's Daniel Ricciardo moving ahead. He's made his stop. He gets past Logan Sargent. And Yuki Tsunoda's going to try and do the same thing as well. So Ricciardo, who is fighting for the minor points today, has come in, taken the new rubber on the car, and he's dropped down to 16th position, but he was fighting Alex Albon for 9th place when he came in. He's just cleared Albon's teammate, Logan Sargent. And we have a completely different Belgian Grand Prix to the one that we expected, and it all began at turn number 1 when Perez lost the position to Hamilton. Hamilton was able to get up to second, able to pass Charles Leclerc, but it's been way more competitive than we expected, as Lando Norris is about 0.7 of a second away from his rival in the championship. 76 points, Max Verstappen leads Lando Norris.
Verstappen was a tenth slower than Russell on the last lap. Red Bull don't have great pace, but nor do McLaren in this race. And Hamilton and Leclerc are just ticking along so nicely out front. Hamilton's still quicker than anyone in the immediate fight behind. Perez has the fastest lap on a new hard tyre, but you'd expect that. On the used tyre was no quicker than those top two either. It's just working nicely for Lewis Hamilton. Norris now getting frustrated behind Verstappen. Oh, he closed in, needed to try and get close through this bus stop, and well, that's again one way to do it, but he didn't manage to get on the throttle and take any advantage.
A couple of track limit pings for Lando Norris in this Grand Prix so far. If you go beyond a certain point, you will be given the black and white warning flag. After that, a 5-second penalty. That's something that he did have, slightly lost in the drama in Austria, but that's something that he did have for track limits in the Austrian Grand Prix. We're on board with Yuki Tsunoda. Started this one at the very back of the field and is trying to get by, trying to keep the toe up against Logan Sargent. Sargent with the inside line. How brave is Yuki Tsunoda feeling? Very is the answer, but he's all over the curb and he's still not able to get by. Lap 24 of 44. Lewis Hamilton is the leader by 2.2 seconds. Oscar Piastri unable to make inroads on our top two, and they've been our top two for a while in the context of the race. Russell still ahead of Verstappen, who has not come tearing through the field like he did in 2022, where he was the race leader in the very early stages before half distance in 2022. Lando Norris finds himself a second away from Verstappen, and then Sainz went the longest of all of them. He's in 7th place.
It's years since we had a race with the top 4 teams being this even on lap time through the Grand Prix. Normally you get some team that comes to life and is consistently at least 2 or 3 tenths quicker, especially on a long lap, than anybody. But Leclerc still trails Hamilton. There's your top 3. 25 laps into the race with more than half distance, and it's like a Formula 2 field today. They're all lapping at a similar time, trying to make the difference, but they've got to make sure that they keep the tyres in check. Hamilton's saying they're good. If they start to fall off a cliff, they'll become into problems strategically, having to do the Perez marathon stint to the flag, which will leave him vulnerable and in a tricky position for the rest of the race. They've just got to get to a sensible lap for the next stop and protect against the undercut.
Appearance versus reality. We look at all the data from the practice sessions, which were dry. We had a thrilling qualifying session in the wet. McLaren biased their car towards a dry race, and we did expect the McLarens and the Red Bulls to be the contenders for victory today. But when you've got a 7-time world champion in the field and he gets the lead, he's used to that feeling out front. He's controlling things really nicely at the moment. And Charles Leclerc hoping for his 7th career win today. Oscar Piastri trying to go back-to-back. That's only happened 2 times in the history of the sport. Lewis Hamilton was the first ever driver to win his maiden Grand Prix and follow it up at the next race and do 2 in a row.
Leclerc's going to blink. In he comes to the pits in the back of shot. Hamilton will check the mirrors and see no red Ferrari this time. It's again a little bit like Budapest, a short middle stint for Leclerc, who went longer in the first stint, shorter in the middle. And this is a long undercut shot of taking the race lead. But it's not the quickest a pit stop didn't feel like. No,
it's not what Ferrari needed. And they have been much improved in that department in recent times. Charles Leclerc is the only non-Red Bull driver to have a stop under 2 seconds in 2024. That's what he needed at that point. and it gives Lewis Hamilton a little bit more breathing room.
And Hamilton did his personal best on the last lap as well, and he's improving again on this lap. So Hamilton surely will pit, cover off Leclerc, and then they'll both be going to the end. And then it's whether Piastri can go long and make it a 3-car fight.
Fascinating situation we find ourselves in again. Hamilton still out there. Vital lap for him if he is to win his 105th Grand Prix today.
Left rear just a bit slow coming off. Yeah, not much more in that. It's a second, but in these crucial phases when you're 2.5 seconds back, you need everything to be perfect for an undercut, and that will probably rule him just a bit too far back now.
Daniel Ricciardo up against Kevin Magnussen, trying to go the long way round. DRS to try and help him do that, and that is what it looks like on board to improve to 14th position. Ricciardo's aim in this Grand Prix is 9th place.
Hamilton is flying on this lap again. He's 4 tenths quicker than Piastri in the middle sector. Piastri was slightly quicker in the first sector, but he's extending the gap and he's going to pit.
Think we'll have a one stop.
So George Russell asking the team to consider extending. Lewis Hamilton coming in for a vital stop. The race leader comes into the pits. Mercedes go to work. And it's a 2.4 second stop to give himself a great chance of covering off Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, that should be job done for Mercedes. That's Sainz, and then behind is Leclerc.
So Carlos Sainz goes through. He's on a different strategy to Lewis Hamilton. The crucial Scarlet Ferrari is the Scarlet Ferrari just coming out of turn number 1. The last source hairpin, and seeing Lewis Hamilton cover it off. We have another race leader. His name is Oscar Piastri. He's yet to make his second stop.
Russell communicating he wants to think about a one stop, which feels incredibly brave from the driver that was the first to pit of those in the top bunch. But he's obviously feeling happy. We had Hamilton on the radio saying that he was quite happy with his tyres in that middle stint, and the fact that he was able to do a good in-lap has kept that buffer to 2.4 seconds to Leclerc, who did have the slower stop as well.
If you're wondering about our top 2 in the World Championship, currently 3rd and 4th in the Grand Prix at the moment, lapping very similar pace. Last time around, Lando Norris a 10th faster than Max Verstappen. This is Alexander Albon also fighting for that 9th place in the points today. He's currently in 16th. Kevin Magnussen is the car ahead, but not for much longer as he stands on the brakes into turn number 5, the Les Combes chicane, and he's ahead of the Danish driver. He's improved up to 15th. Ricciardo is ahead, though, of Albon.
Yes, he's made the difference there in the fringe battles of the points. They just want to get something on the board. Williams, VCarb, Aston Martin still there with Alonso, and Ocon possibly as well, fighting for the scraps, and maybe more if anything comes with the battles further up. Fastest lap of the race for Piastri. Okay, old tyres. And he's finally unleashing a bit of pace in clear air. So McLaren have got a nice buffer with Piastri. They've got 5 seconds back to Russell. There is no undercut threat here. So can they go long and then go attacking Leclerc and Hamilton later on?
This looks good, Oscar. This looks good. Let's go.
That's Tom Stallard, Olympic silver medalist in yesteryear and now race engineer to race winning in the sprint in the Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri. The 2 drivers in Formula 1 history have taken their maiden win and followed it up at the next race. The 2 that Oscar's racing, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, and the Australian driver, if he can back it up with another rapid lap, is he unleashing the pace of that McLaren? Are we finally seeing the true picture of this Grand Prix? My word, Piastri to the extremity of the racetrack at turn number 9.
Last lap was purple.
It goes without saying, but clean air is king.
It's not without pushing. He was very, very fine margins there coming through Speaker's corner. He is hustling and trying to make the most of this, showing the team that in clear air he does have pace. He's not had clear air the entire Grand Prix. Finally he's unleashed and he gets the McLaren into some clean air and unleashes the pace. Hamilton now stuck behind Sainz for what should just be a few corners, and then he'll get DRS and a chance to pass Carlos up the Kemmel Straight at the latest. Sainz's strategy not working out for him, and he's going to have to make another stop before the end of the race as well. In fact, it's going to be on this lap. That's a very odd middle stint there. He went so long on the first, he's going to do just 7 laps on the medium, get off it. chuck on a set of hard tyres as he sweeps out of the way of the race. The net race leader, I should say, Lewis Hamilton, who has Charles Leclerc 2 seconds back.
Verstappen in the pits as well. Carlos Sainz coming in, and Verstappen out with a 2.4 second stop, which is exactly what he needed. He was able to keep Norris, who roared up to the back of him, didn't he? Lando Norris caught Max Verstappen very quickly, never had one opportunity to shape for the move.
I wondered if McLaren would pit Norris before Verstappen to try and undercut Max in the same way as Red Bull did on the first set of stops, but they've stuck to their guns, they've stuck to the plan from the first stint, and they want to have a racy car to the end of the Grand Prix. But given he had quite a big tyre advantage in that middle stint, he couldn't make it work with an on-track pass.
And we're showing you the current lap times at the bottom right-hand side of your picture. Piastri with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Russell 5.5 seconds back, then Norris, Hamilton with the net race lead. He's still got that at the moment. It's 18.5 seconds to come into the pits, make your stop, and at the moment, Hamilton's only 13 seconds back.
He was 0.3 slower than Piastri, but he was stuck behind Sainz, wasn't he, for half of that lap behind before Sainz pitted. Is Hamilton and Mercedes maybe going to rue covering off Charles Leclerc and opening the door to Piastri in this one? Leclerc pitted early, forced the question of Mercedes. They chose to cover off the Ferrari. Felt like a sensible move with Leclerc just 2.5 seconds back. They wanted to defend their track position, but Piastri has a chance. What are McLaren doing?
Responding to the stop last time around. 15 to go. It is the longest lap of the year. And McLaren now find themselves preparing for a crucial stop. In comes Lando Norris. He's going to get new rubber. He's going to try and attack Max Verstappen. Verstappen out on the racetrack at the moment behind Sergio Perez. The Red Bull pair make their way to the main straight. McLaren with a pit stop that looked decent, 2.4 seconds. Very, very similar. There's Perez, there's Verstappen, and there is a couple of points heading in the wrong direction as far as McLaren are concerned, because Norris is still behind the World Championship lead.
What a bizarre strategy for Lando Norris, who gave up that position at the first round of stops and then pits the lap after Verstappen, so now they just have the same tyres heading to the end of the race, and he couldn't pass him with the tyre advantage. Makes no sense to me what they're doing there with Lando. Gave up the track position and now give up any chance of having a tyre advantage to the end either.
McLaren have come under scrutiny in the strategic department in recent times. They had a chance to win the British Grand Prix with both cars. They weren't able to do so. Canada as well, they were in the mix, not able to do so.
Well, how many laps was he 1 second or within a second of Verstappen? As Hamilton pitted, as Leclerc pitted, drivers were pitting. That's Perez jumping out of the way. Yeah, he had golden opportunities to jump Verstappen, but McLaren refused to take it, and as soon as Verstappen covers that off, they pit the next lap.
Oscar Piastri is your race leader, trying to build an advantage. At the moment, he's got 12 seconds over Lewis Hamilton. That gap is falling, not rising, and that's why Piastri, who was trying to build an advantage, has been called into the pit. So McLaren brought in Norris on the last lap, and Piastri, after incredible pace for a couple of laps, is now losing time to Lewis Hamilton. That's why they're bringing in the Australian driver, and Lewis Hamilton will retake the net race lead long on his marks. Piastri at a stop that really counts for a lot. It's going to cost them time. 4.4 seconds.
So he's now had to pit to cover off Verstappen. They would like to send him as long as possible. Norris is going to get a shot in the background at passing Perez on this lap. Long stop, Piastri long in his marks like Norris was at Silverstone. He still covers off Verstappen, so that's important for McLaren, but it's cost him a couple of seconds to Leclerc and to Hamilton. He should have been just 2 seconds back from Leclerc and roaring up to the tail of the net second place man. Instead, he's further back. Here comes Norris.
Norris trying to get past the first of 2 Red Bulls he will hope that he overtakes in this Grand Prix. Perez is the driver. He is passing, and Norris gets up to 6th position. He will try and go chasing after Max Verstappen. Verstappen's trying to catch his teammate, Oscar Piastri. And whilst all of this scrapping is going on, Lewis Hamilton continues to hold a great position to take victory 105 in Formula One. Oscar Piastri going long on his marks at a crucial junction of the Grand Prix.
I'd say it looked a lot calmer on board than it did when you see the whole team reshuffling.
They're so brave to do that job. They're checking everyone's all right. Everyone is okay. It looks by just minor checks down there at McLaren. It's still rapid. It's standing like next to a dual carriageway, isn't it? And he's getting a bit of stick from his colleagues in the garage.
Sore neck. The drivers will have a sore neck, and so will the front jackman after that one. Yeah, good absorption to take that impact of a Formula One car coming to his marks long.
George, just confirming you're happy to stay out. We've got 3 cars now.
Yes.
Copy.
Okay, so Russell wanted to go long. He was the first to pit of the main contenders, along with Verstappen, but he's happy on the tyres. He's just done a personal best lap of the race. 3/10 slower than Hamilton, and he leads by 7 seconds with 12 laps to go. The tyres are going to fall away. It's going to be a long stint for him to make the flag, but why not try? Is the Mercedes plan of action right now.
So Russell trying something different with the strategy. It could be an extraordinary performance if it works.
Lando, these tyres are robust. Happy to push on them.
Lando Norris being told that this is the tyre to go on the attack. And McLaren had a couple of sets of the hard tyres. Max Verstappen's on the medium. Tyre degradation, not usually a conversation that we talk too much about at Spa. But they have resurfaced a large part of this racetrack, and it has been a factor this weekend.
Norris back to within a second of Verstappen. Being told he can go and attack. He was doing that on the last stint. But McLaren not taking up the opportunity to try and undercut. What's the issue with Red Bull? So he's going to have to do it on track. Perez pitted early, didn't he? Red Bull jumped him out of the way with an early second pit stop, and that's not worked out for him. Shuffling back to 7th and on his long stint to the end of the race as well. So Perez is well and truly out of this. The top 8 at the start has become a top 6.
I think London pushing behind me, so let me know what you want me to do.
Yeah, we're happy for you to push now, Max, as well. Happy to push.
Lap 32.
Well, it's all about this Eau Rouge lift, I think, for Verstappen. He's now wary that Norris is within DRS range. If you back off through Eau Rouge, yes, you can save the plank wear, but at some point you're going to cost yourself too much speed on that Kemmel straight, and you're going to be vulnerable to attack from Norris. He's going to do everything to try and make it past his, can we say championship rival? It's a loose championship rival.
Let's say it. Let's see how it sounds. Championship rival, Lando Norris, the driver that we're on board with. No one's ever lost a greater margin, but McLaren have been contenders ever since they updated the car in Miami. They needed a safety car to win that day, but everywhere we've gone since, they've been in the battle either for a pole position or for a Grand Prix victory. But Lando Norris needs a statement overtake against the only driver ahead of him in the point standings coming into this one. 76 points, the lead. You just never know. Max Verstappen lost an engine from his allotted pool. That's why he had to take a penalty today. If you put the pressure on, you just never know in Formula One what might happen. No one has ever overturned a margin that Verstappen has had in this championship since we went to this point system. But this has been an extraordinary year. If there are any of you out there that thought we'd have 7 different winners this season, I don't believe you. It has been an incredible summer. It has had landmark moments, maiden winners, the all-time record being extended. And if we carry on like this, it's going to get extended further. Lewis Hamilton chasing his 5th Belgian Grand Prix victory and 105th Formula One victory. Would be Mercedes' 3rd of the year. They're 3rd in 4 races, and they've got a 1-2 at the moment. Russell going long, trying something audacious with the strategy. There's Lewis Hamilton honing in.
He is having to nurse these tyres. Don't know if it's going to be paying off at the end for George Russell, but wasn't on for a podium anyway with where he was, so it's worth a shot at conjuring up something pretty special. If there's a safety car, he can take advantage of that in the late stages as well and have a cheap pit stop. Still did a personal best on the last lap, 7/10 slower than Hamilton behind, who continues to eat into that gap, which is less than the length of the Kemmel straight now. It's always nice when you've had a pit stop, you're gaining on someone with used tyres, and lap on lap you just see them coming closer. Speaking of which, battle for a net second, an actual 3rd is going to be on. Piastri within a second of Leclerc.
Oscar Piastri has gone to work in those last laps, but he's hit the buffer that his teammates hit. Both McLarens 9/10 of a second away. It is a high-speed racetrack. Even the corners are rapid around here. And what can Piastri do? Told to attack on that hard tyre, and McLaren deliberately saving 2 sets of the hard tyres so they could attack at the end of the Grand Prix.
This is important for Hamilton as well. If Piastri clears Leclerc, he'll have the pace to catch Hamilton. Leclerc can act as the perfect rear gunner for Lewis Hamilton. That's not going to be in his mind. He still is thinking about a race win. He's only 3 seconds away from Hamilton and driving a fine race today in a Ferrari that's been slipping back in terms of outright performance since his last win in Monaco, pretty much.
How much quicker than him? Am I targeting to beat him or not?
It's close. It is close.
That's it.
Hamilton just measuring his pace, not unlocking the full capacity out of that set of hard tyres, but he might unlock a bit more with that message. 10 laps to go, 5.2 seconds the gap, 6/10 the advantage that Hamilton had over Russell. My math says he's going to beat him by 8/10, but of course he's got to pass him.
This is an extraordinary Grand Prix. Hamilton asking, am I doing enough at the moment? Oscar Piastri going back to maximum attack. He's been brushing the gravel all weekend long, and this looks a good run for the man from Melbourne, the 23-year-old who became the 115th Grand Prix winner at the last race, wants a chance to go on the attack at this Grand Prix. Leclerc knows it, makes his move. Piastri trying to go the long way round. Is there enough grip? The answer was always going to be no, and one opportunity is lost for Piastri.
With every chance of, with every time Leclerc can defend another lap, it increases the chance of Hamilton holding on. Piastri has the pace in that McLaren. We saw it being unleashed as soon as the top two pitted. Leclerc scrabbling out of Rivage, starting to fight the rear of the car, pushing down for maximum traction.
10 laps to go. 10 of your finest, mate, come on.
GP on the radio. Max Verstappen's original Red Bull race engineer. They won their first race together, and he's talking about keeping Norris behind. Norris doing what Piastri is doing and giving it everything on a fresh, hard tyre. Verstappen on a degrading medium tyre, not as robust as what the McLarens are running at the moment. Battles everywhere you look. This is absolutely nowhere near what anyone in the paddock expected to happen at the start of the Grand Prix as Piastri goes on the attack. He's looking for third place at the moment, and then he would just heap the pressure on the Mercedes ahead. One trying to run an alternative, audacious strategy for just his second win this season, but one of the more remarkable ones given that Russell called for this himself.
If Russell can pull this off, this is going to be a genius victory for him. Still got Hamilton homing in. Hamilton 8/10 quicker on the last lap, so Lewis is doing enough, but not with a huge amount of comfort margin at the moment. It's going to come down to the last couple of laps as things stand. Piastri's close to Leclerc again.
Now, Piastri's had one dry run at this. Can he get by this time around? Charles Leclerc looking in the mirrors. Piastri wants that inside line. Leclerc is not going to give it to him. So going the long way round and taking the position is Oscar Piastri, who fights his way to third. And now he's going to heap the pressure on the Mercedes. Russell's tyre saving. Hamilton's trying to catch him. And they're going to have to deal with the pace of Oscar Piastri.
Superb move from Piastri. Now he's in contention, but look at the gap to Hamilton. He lost 1.5 seconds to Hamilton on the last lap. He had to make it through for any chance on this lap, and this is how he did it, picking up the slipstream with the DRS. Leclerc once again covered the inside. Oh, he's had to do a lot through the corner there, but he's just released the brakes, carried the speed. Leclerc's given him the space. A fine bit of driving.
Charles Leclerc was chasing his 36th career podium. He had to give up the corner. Piastri did enough, and Oscar Piastri is going to be on the rostrum for the 6th time as it stands. George Russell called the shots, wanted a one-stop. Everyone else came in for fresher rubber. He's trying to nurse that hard tyre all the way to the end. That's the good part of the sentence for the British driver in the lead. The bad part of the sentence is that Lewis Hamilton is 3.7 seconds away as Mercedes aim to win 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix, and they might have Oscar joining the party.
7/10 the gap that Hamilton took out of Russell. You can see it on the bottom of your screen. It's been consistent, and Hamilton's just getting another 10th here, another 10th there, whittling the gap down. Russell will start to believe soon, though. Lap 37 of 44. This is looking like an inspired call. Maybe he won't win the race. Hamilton is bearing down, and you can see the gap coming down. But maybe for a podium for George Russell, there's a fair way to go to Charles Leclerc. There's 5 seconds still between Hamilton and Piastri. Leclerc's not going that quickly. He's been caught by Verstappen. Norris is very close as well as they come through Les Combes on this lap. So Russell's still looking squarely at a podium, if not a victory fight.
It's an incredible roll of the dice from George Russell, but earlier on this weekend just hasn't had the feel. There are races where Russell just rolls out into FP1 and looks like the lead contender. Well, so far this year, he has been the lead Mercedes on the grid more often than not. Wasn't the case at the start of the day. 10-4 up on Lewis Hamilton in the head-to-head battle. But we're looking at that super slow-mo at the bus stop chicane to find out what condition are these hard tyres in. Normally, at the Belgian Grand Prix, you can push and push and push. But degradation is a bigger factor this year, and Hamilton is honing in, but Russell has gone, he's learnt the old way, the old strategy that we used to run around here.
Yeah, the tyres, they didn't look manky. I mean, there's, yeah, they're not looking super new.
Very British word to use to describe the tyres.
These hard tyres, they just wear. So the more they wear, you can sometimes lose temperature in them, particularly in the fronts as well. But there's nothing nasty, there's no blistering, there's no graining on them. And Russell, his pace is dropping away a bit. He's 6/10 off his own personal best on the last lap. Hamilton 9/10 quicker, so he is going to be hanging on to it by the end of the race, which is no surprise because he pitted so early in this one. You'd have thought this would be a chance for Norris or a Sainz who went long in that first stint to do something, but Russell pitted early at the end of the first stint, and he's trying to make the one-stop work.
That 38 of 44 in an engrossing Belgian Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc coming under the attentions of Max Verstappen, who is bringing Lando Norris to the fight as well. This one getting resolved all the way to the end. Max Verstappen, who's had good pace today, you consider that he started from 11th, but it will not be another roaring repeat of that tear through the field when he's been able to just absolutely decimate everyone and stand on the top step. He's fighting for 4th right now.
It's 2024, isn't it? 3 cars, 4 cars, all evenly matched on pace. Ferrari maybe not quite there with Mercedes or the rivals, but Leclerc's been swashbuckling, trying to hang on to that pole position he started with what feels like eons ago. 38 laps, and so much has happened. Sainz going the other way, pitting late, trying to come back to the Red Bull that started on the front row. Sergio Perez dropping down soon to 8th position in another tough race really for Checo. A lot of promise, but it's going to be a long way adrift of the main contenders at the end of this one. And there's still a constructors' battle up for grabs here. Red Bull and McLaren. McLaren will take every point score that they can over their rivals, and that one looks like it's going to go on to the end. Even if we don't, I don't know if we can get excited about a drivers' championship battle. There's certainly a constructors' battle.
And when we go to any racetrack on the Formula One calendar, and this is the longest ever Formula One season, we know that there's a chance that Mercedes or McLaren or Ferrari or Red Bull will be contending for the win. They have all met in the middle in terms of the competitive performance. Sainz is trying to get past Perez. Hamilton now just 1.9 seconds away from George Russell. How hard will the Silver Arrows fight this one? They've both got 1 Grand Prix victory so far this season.
It's not in Russell's interest, really, to go fighting with Hamilton. Hamilton's just got more grip, he's a second a lap quicker, and he will come through before the end of the race.
Here's Sainz trying to improve from 8th to 7th, and he's done it. He gets by Sergio Perez, and that long stint has given him a points gain up against the Mexican driver. P7 for the Ferrari man.
Yeah, nice pass, fairly straightforward on much fresher tyres there for Sainz, so they're now relatively locked into 7th and 8th. Is the man in 6th, still within DRS range of Max Verstappen, but still not able to do anything about him. Verstappen's almost within DRS range now of Leclerc. Verstappen on the medium tyre, there's less favourable, but Red Bull opted for it in this stint. 5 laps to go. Might come into trouble. You can see the attitude of the Red Bull ahead, fighting the rear, desperate to punch through the dirty air and get within a second, which he may well do on the next tour. Norris is closing in as well. This is no DRS here as the speed builds towards 200 miles per hour. A flat-out sweep through Blanchimont.
Here's George Russell checking the mirrors, and he sees Lewis Hamilton get close to the back of him now with 5 laps to go. He ran deep. against the grain of Hamilton, Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, Sainz and Perez. The only driver in the top 8 to try something completely different. It is a Mercedes 1-2, completely against their expectations. Hamilton took the lead on this straight. He played it by the book. Russell has tried something absolutely audacious. He's faster, he's caught him. Can he get by? Or will George Russell do the audacious?
It's a good lap, Oscar. Hamilton's catching Russell ahead. There's going to be action ahead. We want to be there.
It's good lap, but it's not enough for Piastri in relation to Hamilton. Still a 4.5 second gap. Piastri lost too much time with Leclerc and hasn't been able to make significant inroads since. So this is a Mercedes race to lose, and this is Hamilton's race to lose with the pace advantage he's got on Russell. Now, Russell will want to fight this one, but I just don't think he can with the tyres that he's got. He's surely going to have nothing left to defend on Lewis Hamilton, the same way as Sainz has just swept around Perez, who's on even fresher tyres than Russell. Hamilton is now within DRS range. Russell's fight really could be trying to hang on to second place and make this a 1-2 for Mercedes.
Hamilton now inside the 1 second window. George Russell says goodbye to that tear off from his crash helmet and pushes on. If there's anything left with those tyres, we're about to find out. Piastri being told to keep his head down, just push. You never know what might happen between these two. Hamilton looking for a clean overtake, looking for a pass to try and fight his way by. Hamilton looking for a victory here for the first time since 2020.
Make sure you give each other plenty of space.
Sounds like they're going to go racing. Hamilton's got plenty more grip. He closed a couple of car lengths at the bus stop. But I don't know if he's going to be close enough to make the move here as they head up the Kemmel Straight, down through Eau Rouge. Exhilarating rush as you point towards the sky, over the crest. And I don't think he is going to be close enough.
This is an incredible battle against everything advertised at the start of the Grand Prix. It is Mercedes who have made their way to the fore. And Lewis Hamilton took the lead from Charles Leclerc, and you thought Hamilton's the main contender. It'll be Lewis if a Mercedes wins this race. But Russell argued a different way, and he's edging closer to something magnificent. The problem is, that's a 7-time champion of the world who wants his second victory of the season, and he's 105th all-time in Formula One.
And he's closing in all the while, within half a second, sweeping through Pouhon. Super fast, double left-hander, and now the Fagnes chicane. They're soon going to be heading back towards the long stretch and the run up towards the bus stop, and Hamilton this time is crawling over the back of his race-leading teammate. Russell's tyres, they're going to be struggling. His pace is actually staying consistent, but just the wear of these constant laps is going to take its toll, and Hamilton's going to have a brilliant opportunity.
Max Verstappen is 0.7 of a second away from Charles Leclerc. His nearest rival in the championship, directly behind him on the racetrack. If that one kicks off, we'll bring it to you. But we're looking at the unexpected battle for the victory between George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. One driver who's done a 2-stopper, one driver who's done a 1-stopper. Both drivers fighting to the end, and they rise in the grandstand because we've got 3 laps to go. The longest of the season. Just over 12 miles to decide who wins the Belgian Grand Prix.
So here we go then, plunging down towards Eau Rouge once again, and this time Hamilton is slightly closer than he was on the last lap. But on the last lap, he wasn't very close at all to the move. They come over the crest, and he'll pick up the DRS on that line and launch an attack.
George Russell will be checking the mirrors because Hamilton is getting ever closer. Will Hamilton go for the last of the late braking moves? No! If he gets the move done, he's going to have to make it at the bus stop on this lap or on the penultimate or final lap of the Grand Prix.
But look behind, there's a McLaren coming as well. Piastri's 1.3 seconds a lap quicker than these two squabbling Mercedes. He's got time to make this a 3-car fight for the win. That's why I'm surprised Mercedes are letting them fight. They have this win in the bag, but they're allowing Russell the chance to keep fighting. Whilst George isn't having to actually move off the racing line, he's not losing his own race performance here. He's not actually slowing down, but he's just slowing down Hamilton, who's on much fresher tyres, and he's just so close. He's sniffing the oil coming out of the back of the Mercedes ahead.
George Russell has been on these tyres for 31 long laps of Spa-Francorchamps, one of the great tracks anywhere in motor racing. He called for this. I want to give you a context of how unusual it is for Mercedes to split strategy. Singapore last year, both cars came in. Canada last year, both cars came in. Silverstone this year, both cars came in. They usually do the same thing with both drivers, but Russell was insistent that this wouldn't be the case, and he's taken this incredible one-stop strategy to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix in the lead. But if the Mercedes fight, Oscar Piastri is the man ever closer, trying to pick up the pieces. They do battle to Eau Rouge.
And Russell is getting good drive off La Source. Again, he opens up the gap towards 7/10. And if Hamilton can't come past Russell, he'll at least have the DRS to defend from Piastri, who is getting closer and closer. We're on the penultimate lap, and I don't think he's going to be able to make it.
He's not there, Jolyon. How can this be possible from George Russell? This is where he comes under serious pressure. This is where Hamilton turns the screw up against his rival, up against his teammate, and if they battle on the last lap, Oscar Piastri could go back-to-back and take his second victory all-time in Formula One. Will they go tactical? Will they say hold position so they don't bring Piastri into play? Or will it be Russell versus Hamilton?
Well, how does Piastri come past, in fairness, if Hamilton's this close to Russell? There'll be a DRS train at the front. It's a high-risk strategy from Mercedes. Oh, I don't know how they can live with this, with Piastri closing in, the two cars fighting it out, but fair play to them for allowing this race to go all the way. They're not in Constructors' Championship fight at the moment. They're trying to win races. They're allowing both drivers to have a crack at it. They've both won one Grand Prix so far this year, and it is going to come down to the final lap of the race.
Lewis Hamilton has been here before. He's battled for victory in Belgium on the last lap in 2008. George Russell is trying to win just his third Formula One Grand Prix. But my word, if he makes this work, he will never let you hear the end of it. It would be an extraordinary call for driver against team. And it's Russell versus Hamilton, Mercedes versus Mercedes, with a McLaren close by to win the Belgian Grand Prix.
Hamilton has a lock-up at La Source. This is the last big opportunity with DRS on the horizon over the crest of Radion. And again, Russell's done enough on the exit. He's holding Hamilton at arm's length.
Russell immediately knows that he needs to break the toe. Lewis Hamilton is the driver with DRS. Oscar Piastri is in third position. How close, how brave, how late dare Hamilton go? He can't get there. He can't make the move. And George Russell is closing in on one of the most extraordinary and audacious strategy calls that we've seen in years in Formula One.
There are 11 more corners. There's another lock-up for Hamilton, who's trying to do everything to force the issue, but all he can do is apply the pressure to Russell and hope that his teammate makes a mistake. There's no more DRS to the flag. It's all going to come down to the bus stop if Hamilton can do anything.
Hamilton will gather himself again. It's not done yet. There's still an overtaking opportunity, but it is the definition of high risk. It would be the last corners of the last lap as Piastri heaps on the pressure. Hamilton all over the road, trying to give himself an opportunity to win this one at the final chicane on the final lap.
One more big exit from Russell out of Stavolo 2. Looking back at Hamilton, this is the fight for the win with just the bus stop to go.
It's going to go all the way to the checkered flag. One chicane remains. Lewis Hamilton is chasing George Russell all the way to the end of the Grand Prix, but it'll be a Grand Prix claimed inexplicably with driving brilliance from the wheel of George Russell, who takes one of the greatest drives you will ever witness to the top step of the podium. George Russell wins the Belgian Grand Prix. All the other big teams went for a two-stopper with both drivers. Mercedes heard the call. Russell demanded one. Russell takes his third career victory by half a second across the line to deny Lewis Hamilton. The podium is completed by Oscar Piastri. How did he do that?
Stupendous from Russell.
Come on! Oh, boys again! What a performance!
Whoa, well done. Awesome work.
Oh!
Mercedes.
Oh, yes! Amazing strategy, guys.
Incredible, incredible how he's managed to do that and keep Hamilton at bay and have the pace to keep Piastri at bay as well. He pitted on lap 10. He has run those hard tyres 34 laps at good pace. And remember, he called the strategy. He said, don't worry about everyone else, let's try a one-stop. Genius.
George Russell, take a bow, leap into the arms of your mechanics. There's no victory lap here, so you turn the wrong way up the pit lane. You're into the arms of those who work on the car quicker than any other time of the season. The adrenaline is pumping, the champagne will be flowing. That is absolutely incredible. 34 laps on a tyre that wasn't meant to last that long. Hamilton never got a chance to throw it to the inside. 105 will wait for another day. The man leaving the team was in the box seat to take the win, and it's George Russell with a second win of the season, a third in his Formula One career. Lando Norris was unable to get by Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen was unable to get past Charles Leclerc. And appearance versus reality, appearance versus expectation, extraordinary. It should not have been possible to win the Grand Prix on a one-stop. And there's the expression to tell you what George Russell has done. The tyre whisperer in Belgium is Russell, who is returning to victory. And look at his face.
Elation for Russell, and it's going to be a shattering disappointment for Hamilton, who drove so well in that Grand Prix as well. Past Perez at the start, past Leclerc on track. He covered everyone off. No way did he think this guy was going to fight for the win. He wasn't in the top three at any point, but just went long and long, pulled it off. And people question sometimes Russell's composure under pressure. But if you're driving around on 34-lap old hard tyres and you're not making any mistakes, you're soaking up that pressure around a track that theoretically is not that hard to overtake. This was an outstanding performance, really, from George, and it answers some of his critics, I think.
One of the greatest strategic calls that we've seen for many a year in a season where we've been discussing strategy all year long. Incredible, incredible stuff. Sergio Perez got the bonus point for fastest lap. We never got them side by side into Lecom. We never got the moment of brinkmanship that we were recalling that's happened in previous years. Verstappen gained 6 places and extends his advantage in the Formula One World Championship by beating Lando Norris today. McLaren will review why they didn't give a tyre advantage to Norris, why they didn't go for the undercut sooner. And when they review it, they might want to get the input of this man, because George Russell cannot believe, and he's just recalling that he called for it. A man from Norfolk dancing all the way to the top step of the podium, and after an entire Grand Prix distance, look at the top 3 across the lap.
Amazing strategy. You guys are the best. Come on.
It's a pretty good driving as well.
Yeah, that was right. Yes! Woohoo!
Tyre whisperer. Tyre whisperer.
Tyre whisperer.
Toto Wolff taking it all in his stride. George Russell, pure, utter elation. And into the arms of his mechanics a few moments after this. Look at this, punching the air in delight. A 3-time Grand Prix winner. And Formula One in 2024, it has absolutely everything.
He started 6th, was never looking at even being on the podium until that just genius call and perfect execution. You don't see many strategy wins like that.
Just pure adrenaline for Russell. He's trying to calm himself down, trying to compose himself, but why bother? How often do you beat the field with an audacious alternative strategy like that? Günther Steiner is talking to the top 3.
Hi Oscar, congratulations, a fantastic result, you're third, you know. I mean, again a podium, you keep on bringing them. Did you think you can get the Mercedes after the last stop?
Honestly, yes, I thought I could, but yeah, I mean, clean air was such a big difference today. Once I got a little bit of clean air in the middle stint, I picked up a lot of pace and managed to get a nice tyre delta for the last stop, but clearly didn't need tyre delta, you just needed to keep going, as George showed. So no, happy with the result. I think we managed the race very well. I think that's the second or third time this year we've tried to run over the front jack, so I'll try not to do that next time. But no, very happy with the result, and I don't think we could have done too much more.
What was missing in the end not to get to P1? What do you think? Was it strategy? Was it the speed? What was it?
I think just not quite enough speed. I think it took me a couple of laps to get past Charles, and I really overheated the tyres doing that. But yeah, I mean, clearly the pace for George staying out there on one set of hards was the right thing to do. So we just didn't quite have enough pace to mow him down. Even Lewis, didn't quite have enough. So I think we did a lot of things right, gave ourselves the best opportunities we could, but in the end, wasn't quite enough.
It must be a good feeling to go into the summer break with a podium and getting ready for afterwards. How do you feel about the next races coming up?
Positive. Yeah, I mean, it's been a really good couple of weeks for myself and the whole team, of course. A lot of points. We still made inroads on Red Bull today, and that's a really positive thing going into the break. I think everyone's looking forward to a bit of a break. I know I am, so I can heal up a little bit. But no, it's been a fun couple of weeks, and looking forward to some time relaxing and coming back even stronger in the second half.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Enjoy the summer break, Oscar.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
I'll go on.
Yes.
Sorry?
Hi, Luis. Congratulations to P2. It's a fantastic result for Mercedes, a 1-2. I mean, did you expect this starting the race or starting the weekend?
No, we definitely didn't. And I mean, first I have to say congratulations to George and to the team. No, we had such a disaster on Friday. The car was really nowhere, and we made some changes. Hard to see what it was going to feel like, obviously, because of the wet yesterday. But the car was fantastic today, and we really owe it to everyone both here doing a solid job through the pit stops and strategy, and and the guys back at the factory.
Yeah, as I said, it's a fantastic race. How tough were the last laps behind George? How much were you tempted to attack and to try to do it?
I mean, I was trying to get closer, obviously, but George did a great job on going long on the tires. Every stint I had tires left, but the team pulled me in. So, unfortunate, but it is one of those days.
You for sure must be pumped up now for what is coming after the summer break, because your team is performing very good in the moment, not only now, but the last races. So do you think you can go for the championship?
No.
You never know.
High hopes. It would be high hopes. But I mean, if we can continue this kind of performance as we've had the last few races, which has been fantastic, I think if we can start our weekends off a little bit better, hopefully we can continue. I think obviously the McLaren was very strong today, but we were just a bit further ahead early on. But yeah, we just got to keep pushing.
Congratulations and enjoy the summer break. Congratulations, George. I'm almost speechless, from your race. I mean, that takes a lot. But anyway, a race with 3 cars at the end in 1.1 second, fighting every little bit. So how tough was it in the end to hold off Lewis?
Yeah, amazing result. We definitely didn't predict this win this morning in our strategy meeting, but the car was feeling really awesome, and we made a lot of changes from Friday night. And the tyres just felt great, and I just kept saying, I think we can do the one stop, and the strategy did a really great job. And also, well done to Lewis, because he really controlled that race, and circumstances were slightly different. I'm sure he would have got the victory, but 1-2 for the team was such an awesome result and such a great way to go into the break.
So who was the genius behind this one stop? Who was the genius behind that one?
I mean, I was focusing a lot during the race, so I'll have to listen to the radio comms back, but it was, it was a team effort. Joey, Leo, all the strategy guys did an amazing job, and, always it's that team effort. So we rolled the dice, but it was only possible because the car was feeling really great, and the pace was there. So, 1-2, such a good result.
Yeah, I'm sure now you cannot wait to get if the summer break over and go to Zandvoort to the next race. I think because I think you are pretty hyped up to go to the next race, because I think Mercedes as a team now is in a good position to win more. I mean, It's your third one this year, but
absolutely, yeah, it's three wins in 6, I think it is for us now. I'd want another race next weekend, to be honest. Just feeling so good. The team have been working so hard, and yeah, so well deserved for everybody back at Brackley and Brixworth.
Perfect. Congratulations again. Enjoy the summer break and see you in Zandvoort.
How about that? The top 3 covered by 1.1 seconds across the line. Cool down room time.
I didn't, but George did.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe he actually made it work.
My tyres were fine, all stints, and nothing I could have done as well.
As soon as you get close to someone, it's impossible. Like I could tell as soon as you got to George, it was just getting away. I thought Max was going to be a bit quicker than that.
What did he come?
5th, I think. This wasn't great.
Surprised Red Bull's going to come through more.
I think
the medium was not the right choice, was it?
No. Didn't even need 2 halves, just needed 1.
But I think every single lap the track was gripping up and it was getting better and better.
Yeah. But also, as soon as you get clean air, it was just...
Got another cool down room in the books. There's Kimi Antonelli. We suspect that young 17-year-old is going to be George Russell's teammate for next year. Nothing to suggest that Mercedes are looking at any other options at this stage, unless, of course, they can obtain the signature of a certain Max Verstappen. We don't have any Grand Prix in the next few weeks, but I think we're going to get driver market news aplenty in the summer break. Well, another phenomenal Grand Prix to cherish, really. Could have been one of many drivers, but in the end it's George Russell who's finished half a second ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who's finished half a second ahead of Oscar Piastri. An absolute classic, and Oscar Piastri having a great summer, a summer in which he became a Grand Prix winner. This is his 6th podium in his Formula One career. McLaren would have dreamt of a little bit more at the start of the day, but not to be. Lewis Hamilton, 201 podiums in Formula One, but you know this one's going to sting when you get so close to the win, half a second across the line. But George Russell leaping onto the top step of the podium and celebrating just a 3rd victory in Formula One. the British and German national anthems ring out around Spa-Francorchamps, and it's a golden trophy for a golden performance. The others didn't elect for the one-stop strategy made to work against all expectations by George Russell, who leaps into the air as a three-time Grand Prix winner, his second win this season. And if he got a little bit of fortune in Austria, my word, did he have to make all of his own luck today. And his reward in this Olympic week is a gold medal from the FIA. The brilliant Tom Christensen is presenting the trophy. The greatest driver of endurance racing will appreciate the stint of George Russell and the strategy call made between team and driver at Mercedes. They are celebrating once again with a 1-2 to boot, their 60th all-time in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton is on the podium once more. He wanted the top step, but it's a second place to continue a fine run of form for the British driver. Once again, he's on the rostrum, as is Oscar Piastri. Getting used to this feeling. This is his 6th career podium. Wow, deep breath all round. My word, that the top three deserve their spray of the bubbly. We started the season with the Max Verstappen show. Across the course of the summer, after Miami, it's been wide open. We finish before the summer break with 7 different winners. Maiden winners in Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. An extraordinary, record-breaking, extending win at Silverstone for Lewis Hamilton. But George Russell, one of the 7, with an audacious run on a tyre that no one thought would last. But he made it work. The top 3 across the line, separated by 1.1 seconds. And this season just keeps on delivering outstanding stories every single time that we visit a racetrack. And Spa, one of the original circuits on the calendar, has seen a lot through the years, but it's seen another classic Grand Prix. A race claimed by Mercedes in a 1-2 finish. And a lovely moment for the Mercedes team, celebrating. That's lovely to see. And it's Jerry McMillan, the senior race strategist, who was hoisted onto the shoulders of Hamilton and Russell there, as Russell takes the adulation of the crowd and his team. A day that, when his career comes to a close, he will savour as an extraordinary racing performance. Into the arms of his team, celebrating a moment and a race to remember. George Russell has won the Belgian Grand Prix in audacious style. My thanks to Jolyon Palmer in commentary and the whole team for the season so far. We will see you after the break. Well done to Mercedes. You've been watching F1 TV.